There is a specific kind of silence that happens at 3 in the morning.
Mm.
If you're a parent, or I mean, even if you're just thinking about becoming one, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, the anxiety loop.
The anxiety loop, yes. You're lying there staring at the ceiling, the house is completely quiet, and your brain is just cycling through this endless loop of what if?
It's the universal frequency of parenthood, I think. What if something's wrong?
Right. It's that gnawing, low-level panic. You're thinking about this future child, this, hypothetical person, and you just pray, please let them be healthy.
And it feels completely out of your hands.
Completely. It feels like you're standing at a roulette wheel in Vegas.
Yeah.
You've put all your chips on healthy baby, you spin the wheel, and then you hold your breath.
Yeah.
You feel like you have absolutely no influence over where that ball lands.
Because that's what we're taught. I mean, we are culturally conditioned to believe that a child's health is basically a lottery.
A lottery, exactly.
You get the genetics you get. It's luck. It's fate. It's a roll of the dice.
And we just accept that. We view it as this chaotic event. But what if that entire framework is wrong?
Or at least.
Or at the very least, what if it's dangerously incomplete? And that's what we're grappling with today. We have some source material that suggests a healthy baby isn't a matter of luck at all.
No.
It's a matter of engineering.
Engineering is the perfect word for it. It really is. It removes the mysticism, and replaces it with mechanics.
I like that.
We're unpacking a counter-narrative today that says the blueprint for a child's health isn't finalized in the delivery room. It isn't even finalized at the moment of conception.
Which is what everyone assumes.
Everyone assumes that's the starting gun.
But it's not.
But the source says it's finalized months before that, in a window of time most people completely, utterly ignore.
That's the hook that got me. This idea that we have this massive blind spot regarding when we actually become parents. So to get to the bottom of this, we're diving deep into the archives.
We are.
We are looking at the work of Dr. Weston Price, specifically his research on parental responsibility and intergenerational health legacies.
And for anyone who doesn't know, calling Dr. Price a researcher is a bit of an undersell. He was. Well, he was basically the Indiana Jones of dentistry in the 1930s.
The Indiana Jones of dentistry. I like that. It paints a picture.
It's true. I mean, this guy didn't sit in the sterile lab in a university. He traveled to the most remote corners of the globe, the Swiss Alps, the African interior, the Pacific Islands, the Arctic Circle.
He went everywhere.
Everywhere. He was looking for the healthiest people on Earth. And the material we're looking at today, it frames his findings specifically for a modern audience, an audience interested in longevity.
The longevity 30 to 120 concept.
Exactly.
Which is a bold framing. It's not just about having a baby that survives infancy. It's about designing a human being who can thrive for 120 years.
Right. So our mission today is to uncover the secret that these indigenous ancestors knew something we in the modern world have completely deleted from our operating system.
Okay. We're going to talk about how to literally design a child's health through nutrition. And we're going to break down a very specific protocol called the 6-month rule.
And we're going to talk about nutritional inheritance. Because apparently you pass down more than just your eye color or your stubbornness. You pass down a bank account. And if that account is empty, the consequences are, well, very heavy.
They are profound. And they last a lifetime.
So let's start with the problem. The source material paints this really striking contrast. On one side, you have the Instagram version of parenting.
Perfect picture.
The peaceful, sleeping newborn, soft light, perfect skin. It's the Gerber baby ideal. It's what we all want. But then the source forces you to look at the data.
The reality check.
Yeah. The reality check. The rising statistics of congenital defects, childhood leukemia, severe allergies, asthma, children who are just fragile. You walk into a pediatrician's office now, and the waiting room is full.
Always full.
Oh, we call it having a weak constitution. That's the old school term for it. The kid who catches every single cold.
Every cold.
The kid who needs tubes in their ears. The kid with the narrow face and the crowded teeth who needs years and years of orthodontics. And usually when we see that, what do we say?
We say, oh, bad genes.
Right. It's in the family.
Or
just bad luck.
Just bad luck. It's a very modern, and I have to say, a very convenient excuse. It absolves us of responsibility because it places the cause outside of our control.
Right. I didn't do this. The universe did.
It's a comforting lie, in a way.
But Dr. Price, he wasn't buying that excuse 80 years ago, was he?
Not for a second. And you have to remember the context. He was seeing patients in Cleveland, Ohio in the 1920s and 30s. He was seeing the first generation of Americans really raising children on industrialized processed foods.
First wave.
The first big wave. We're talking sugar, white flour, canned goods, vegetable oils becoming staples, and he saw their mouths shrinking.
Shrinking. Like literally shrinking. Literally. The dental arches were getting narrower, the teeth were coming in crooked because there just wasn't enough room in the jaw anymore.
Wow.
And he looked at this physical degeneration along with susceptibility to tuberculosis and other diseases, and he didn't see bad luck. He saw a failure of architecture.
A failure of architecture. That's such a distinct way to put it.
His assertion was that physical degeneration is not inevitable. It is a result of us failing to provide the building blocks. I mean, if you see a building collapsing, do you blame the wind or do you blame the fact that the steel was cheap?
Right. You blame the materials.
You blame the materials.
The source uses an analogy here that I found really helpful, especially for anyone who has ever tried to build something or even just watch those home renovation shows.
Okay.
It says, you cannot build a solid house from an empty warehouse.
It's dead on. It's perfect. Think about it. You are the contractor. You have the best blueprints in the world. That's your DNA.
The genetic code.
The DNA says, build a mansion, build strong walls, build a wide foundation, build high ceilings. But you go to the warehouse and it's empty.
No materials.
No lumber, no concrete, no steel, nothing.
So what happens? You can't just stop building. The project is on a deadline.
Exactly. The schedule is set, the baby is growing, so you improvise, you scavenge, you build the walls out of cardboard, you skip the foundation, you build a house that looks like a house from the street, maybe.
Maybe. On a good day.
But the first time a storm comes, a flu virus, a stressor, a change in environment, the whole house just collapses. The source is arguing that if the parents' bodies are empty of specific nutrients, the child's body will be built with cardboard.
That is a terrifying image.
Right.
But it clarifies the mechanism so well. The design of the child isn't just the blueprint.
No.
It's the supply chain.
Exactly. And the supply chain has to be stocked before you break ground. And that brings us to the core of Dr. Price's findings in Chapter 18. This wasn't just a theory he cooked up in his office while looking at x-rays.
This was observation.
This was an observation of universal custom among the healthiest people on Earth.
This is the anthropology part, which I love.
Yeah.
Because usually when we talk about traditional wisdom, we think of superstitions or, old wise tales.
Right. Don't walk under a ladder.
Don't cross a black cat kind of stuff. But Price found something remarkably consistent across cultures that had nothing to do with each other.
He did. He went to the Swiss Alps, specifically the Lower Valley. I mean, these people had been isolated for centuries. He went to the interior of Africa. He went to the Pacific Islands. These people had never met. They had no Zoom calls, no shared language, no internet, no scientific journals.
Nothing.
But they all did the same thing when it came to pregnancy.
They practiced special feeding.
Right. They had a specific nutritional protocol for creating life.
Which, to modern ears, sounds like something you do for a prize racehorse or a show dog. Feed the champion the good oats.
It does sound clinical, doesn't it? But the logic is absolutely sound. They understood that creating the next generation was the most physically demanding task a human body could undertake.
It's metabolic athletics.
That's a great way to put it. So when a couple was planning to conceive, or even just when they reached marriageable age, the tribe didn't just say, hey, congrats, good luck. They intervened.
They had social rules about food.
Strict rules.
Oh.
The high-nutrient foods, they were not randomly eaten by just anyone. They were allocated. It was a rationing system based on biological need.
So if you were a young man or woman about to marry,
You got the best cuts. You got the sacred foods.
the source mentions the tribes of Fiji specifically. And this story really stuck with me because the sheer effort involved. I mean, it wasn't just walking to the market.
No, not at all.
Can you walk us through the Fijian protocol?
It's a remarkable example of cost-benefit analysis by a so-called primitive culture. The interior tribes of Fiji lived high up in the mountains. They had plenty of food up there. Plant foods, tubers, maybe some game. They were well-fed. But when it was time for the young women to conceive, the tribesmen would travel. And we are talking a leisurely stroll. They would trek tens of kilometers down the mountain to the coast.
Tens of kilometers. To get what?
Crabs, specifically the spider crab. And not just the meat, they were after the eggs, the roe.
So they are hiking for miles and miles, hauling these crabs back up a mountain just for the eggs.
That's for the eggs. They would harvest these and bring them back specifically for the women of childbearing age. Now, you have to ask yourself, why?
Right.
They didn't have biochemistry labs. They didn't know what vitamin K2 or DHA was. They couldn't run a blood panel. But they understood instinctually, through generations of trial and error and observation, that this specific food contained the materials necessary to mold a perfect physical form.
They believed that without these foods, the children would be born incomplete.
Incomplete, that's the key. They knew that if they skipped the crab run, if they said, it's too far today, the babies wouldn't thrive. They would be smaller, weaker, maybe their minds wouldn't be as sharp.
It was a non-negotiable part of the process.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just Fiji. The source mentions the Inuit populations, the Eskimos as well. Totally different environment, no crabs in the Arctic ice, I assume.
Very few crabs, yeah.
But the principle is identical. For the Inuit, the prize was the internal organs of sea mammals.
Like seal.
Specifically the seal. And again, these were prized. In our culture, we might throw the organs to the dogs and keep the lean meat because we think the lean meat is the clean part.
We do the opposite.
They did the opposite. The organs were the sacred food for the parents to be.
Because they were recognized as essential for creating what they called the perfect body.
The perfect body. It sounds like a marketing slogan for a gym today, but for them, it was survival. If you are living on the ice, you cannot afford to be fragile. You cannot afford to have a crowded jaw that impacts your breathing. You can't afford a weak immune system.
You die.
You die. It's that simple.
And the data backs them up, doesn't it? This is the part that I think stops people in their tracks, the 0% deformity statistic.
It is staggering. I mean, truly, when Dr. Price examined these populations, the ones adhering to these traditional diets and special feeding rituals, he recorded a congenital deformity rate of practically 0.
0. I mean, in statistics, 0 usually doesn't exist. There's always a margin of error.
It's an anomaly. But he documented it thoroughly with photographs and measurements, no club feet, no cleft palates, and perhaps most visually striking to us today, no dental crowding.
That's the thing that gets me. We look around today, you walk into any middle school, and half the kids have braces.
At least half.
If a kid has straight teeth naturally, we think, wow, they won the genetic lottery.
Right. But in these tribes, everyone had broad faces. Everyone had wide dental arches. Everyone had straight teeth. There was no need for orthodontists because the jaws were built correctly from the start.
So what you're saying is crooked teeth aren't normal.
They are common, very, very common, but they are not normal. In our modern world, we've normalized pathology. We accept that teenagers need their wisdom teeth removed.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. Why do we need a body part removed that grows naturally?
I always assumed it was because our mouths are too small,
Yeah.
that we just evolved to have smaller faces or something.
Exactly. But why are our mouths too small? Is it because evolution suddenly decided in the last 100 years to shrink our jaws while keeping the same number of teeth?
No.
No, evolution doesn't work that fast. Our jaws are too small because we failed to build them to their full genetic potential.
It goes back to the warehouse. We didn't have the bricks to build the full arch.
Precisely. The DNA said, build a wide arch to fit 32 teeth. The body checked the inventory and said, I don't have enough calcium. I don't have enough vitamin K2 to move the calcium, so I had to cut corners. I'll build a narrow arch instead.
It's a triage situation.
It's a triage situation, and it's a failed expression of the genetic potential.
That is a huge concept, failed expression. It really reframes how we look at our own bodies. It's not that the genes were bad, it's that the construction crew was underfunded.
The budget was cut,
Right.
and when the budget is cut, the luxury items go first. And apparently a wide jaw is considered a luxury item by a starving body.
Okay, so we know that it happens. We know the warehouse matters. But I want to know how. The source talks about the 6-month rule. Why 6 months? Why not just start eating healthy when you toss the birth control pills?
Right.
Or when you get the positive test?
This is where we get into the biology of the stockpile. The source deconstructs the timeline very clearly. Preparation must start 6 months before conception. And there are 2 very specific biological reasons for this.
Break it down for us. What is happening in those 6 months?
First, let's look at the cells themselves, the sperm and the egg. We tend to think of them as just being there, waiting.
Right, just on standby.
But they go through a maturation process. Spermatogenesis, the creation of new sperm, takes about 74 days, plus transport time. So roughly 3 months.
So the sperm that fertilizes the egg today was actually created 3 months ago.
Exactly. It reflects the health status of the father from 3 months prior. If he was inflamed, nutrient deficient, stressed, or eating pure sugar 3 months ago, that sperm carries that legacy.
What does that mean, carries that legacy?
It might have DNA fragmentation, it might be sluggish, it might not have the energy to complete the journey.
So if you're partying, eating junk, and living on stress, and then you decide to conceive, you're using damaged goods, effectively.
You're using cells that developed in a hostile environment. The DNA payload itself can be compromised, so you need that 3 to 4 month window just to ensure the raw materials of life, the seed itself, is high quality.
And for the egg.
The egg also goes through a maturation cycle of about 90 days before ovulation, where it is incredibly sensitive to the mother's nutritional status. The environment it matures in determines its quality.
So you need that lead time just to clear the deck and create good cells.
Correct. But the second reason for the 6-month rule is perhaps even more critical for the structural development we were just talking about.
The warehouse stocking.
Yes. 6 months is the window needed to accumulate a stockpile of minerals and fat-soluble vitamins in the parents' bodies, particularly the mother.
A stockpile. Like prepping for winter.
Exactly like that. Think of pregnancy as a massive metabolic tax event. The baby is, biologically speaking, a parasite.
Yeah, I know that sounds harsh.
It's not the most romantic description, but any mother who has dealt with morning sickness or exhaustion will tell you it feels true.
It will take what it needs, regardless of the cost to the mother. If the mother has a checking account of nutrients that is just barely enough to keep her going, which is most modern women,
Yeah.
the baby will overdraw the account. And that's where you see mothers losing bone density, having teeth issues during pregnancy, hair loss, postpartum depression.
Right. That is the mother's body cannibalizing itself to feed the baby. But if she has a savings account, a deep storage of vitamin A in her liver, vitamin D in her fat tissue, minerals in her bones, then there is enough for both.
So the baby can build that wide jaw without depleting the mother.
Without bankrupting the mother, exactly.
And if there isn't enough, what are the consequences of insufficient funds?
The source is very specific here. We see physiological failures. We touched on the facial structure, the narrow jaws, the dental crowding. That is the body rationing bone material. But it goes deeper. Brain development.
This is the scary part.
It is. The neural networks require massive amounts of specific fats, DHA, arachidonic acid, and minerals to wire up correctly. If the warehouse is empty, the wiring is faulty.
What does faulty wiring look like in a person?
You might get lower processing speed, susceptibility to anxiety, structural issues in the nervous system that can manifest as learning disabilities or attention issues.
And again, the source emphasizes that the DNA might be fine. That's the tragic part. The blueprint is perfect.
That is the tragedy. You could have the genetics to be an Olympic athlete or a Nobel Prize winner, but if the expression fails due to a lack of building blocks, that potential is never realized.
Wow.
The child is born with a compromise that they have to live with for the rest of their life.
It really puts the responsibility on the parents, doesn't it? It's empowering, but also a little terrifying. It's like being told you're the architect of a skyscraper, but you've never studied architecture.
It is, but that's why this knowledge is so valuable, because once you know it, you can do something about it. You can start filling the warehouse. You don't have to guess.
So let's talk about filling the warehouse. We've scared everyone enough with the what happens if you don't. Let's talk about the nutritional toolkit.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. The source outlines what we should be eating. And spoiler alert, it's not kale salads and skinless chicken breast.
No. It is radically different from the modern food pyramid. If you follow standard advice, you might actually miss the mark here. The source identifies 3 pillars of preconception nutrition. These are the heavy hitters.
Okay, pillar number 1. We already hinted at it with the Fijians.
Fresh fish eggs. Roe.
Now, I like sushi. I can do a little tobiko here and there, but the source suggests this should be a staple. Why is this so high on the list?
Density. That's the key word for this entire section. Fish eggs are essentially a concentrated life support system. They contain everything needed to create a fish bones, eyes, scales, brain in a tiny prepackaged sphere.
It's a whole organism in potential,
Exactly. They are incredibly rich in omega-3 fatty acids, specifically DHA.
which is the brain builder.
The brain is 60% fat. You need the right kind of fat to build it. But roe is also loaded with vitamins and minerals in a highly bioavailable form. Zinc, iodine, vitamin A. It's nature's perfect package for rapid development.
So it's like nature's multivitamin.
It's better than a multivitamin because it comes with the necessary fats to absorb it. A multivitamin is often synthetic. Your body doesn't always know what to do with it. With roe, your body recognizes it instantly. It's bioidentical to what we need.
Okay, pillar number 2. This one might be a harder sell for some people. I know my kids won't touch it.
Organ meats, specifically liver.
The powerhouse. The thing everyone's grandmother tried to force them to eat.
The source calls it a vitamin powerhouse, and that's an understatement. Gram for gram, liver contains more nutrients than almost any other food on Earth.
More than steak, more than vegetables.
Oh, by an order of magnitude. It's rich in vitamin A, B12, iron, copper, folate. It puts muscle meat to shame.
It's interesting. In traditional cultures, the liver was the first part of the animal eaten, right?
Often given to the elders or the pregnant women immediately after the kill. The muscle meat, the steaks and chops we love today, was actually considered less valuable. It was poor man's food in some contexts because it was just protein. It didn't have the magical vitality factors.
We've really flipped that upside down, haven't we? We throw away the liver and pay a premium for the filet mignon.
We have, and in doing so, we've traded nutrient density for convenience and texture. We've traded health for yum. And look, I get it, liver has a strong taste.
It's metallic.
It is. But you don't need to eat a steak of it. You can hide it. You can get desiccated liver capsules. You can grind it into meatballs, mix it with ground beef. But you need it. The vitamin A content alone is crucial for that genetic expression we talked about.
Okay, so that's 2. What's pillar number 3?
Natural and animal fats. We're talking grass-fed butter, egg yolks, lard, tallow.
This is crucial. For decades, we were told to fear fat. Low fat was the mantra of the 90s.
Yeah.
We ate Snackwells and margarine.
We did. It was a disaster. But for preconception, fat is your best friend. Why? Because the vitamins we are talking about, A, D, E, K are fat-soluble.
Explain that mechanism. What does that mean?
It means they cannot be absorbed or transported without fat. You can eat all the carrots you want for vitamin A, which is actually beta-carotene, a precursor. But if you don't eat them with fat, you aren't absorbing it efficiently.
Okay.
And more importantly, the true vitamin A, retinol, is only found in animal fats. You need the vehicle to transport the passengers. Fat is the vehicle.
And the source mentions a specific activator here. Something Dr. Price called Activator X. It sounds like a comic book serum.
It does. When Dr. Price was doing his research, he found a substance in the butterfat of cows eating rapidly growing green grass. He tested it on animals and people and saw miracles reversing tooth decay, widening arches. He didn't know what it was chemically, so he just called it Activator X.
And we know what it is now, right? We've identified it.
Yes, modern science has identified it as a vitamin K2.
And what does K2 actually do? Why is it the activator?
Think of K2 as the traffic cop for minerals. You ingest calcium. Where does it go? Does it go into your bones and teeth where you want it? Or does it go into your arteries and soft tissues where it causes plaque and stiffness?
Obviously, we want it in the bones.
Right. But calcium is dumb. It doesn't know where to go on its own. Vitamin K2 activates proteins, specifically osteocalcin, that grab the calcium and physically drag it into the skeletal structure.
So without K2.
Without K2, you can drink all the milk you want, take all the calcium supplements you want, but the calcium won't build that wide, strong jaw we talked about. It might just calcify your arteries or cause kidney stones.
Oh.
So grass-fed butter, which is high in K2, is the architect that directs the minerals to the right place.
That is fascinating. So you have the bricks, which are the minerals.
Right.
And you have the architect, which is Activator X or K2.
Exactly. You need both. You can have piles of bricks, but without an architect, you just have a pile.
Now, we can't talk about what to eat without talking about what not to eat. The source identifies the enemies of development, and I think we can all guess what they are.
Sugar and white flour, the dynamic duo of the modern diet.
But the source frames them in a really interesting way. It doesn't just say they're bad for you, it calls them mineral thieves.
Mineral thieves. It's a great description because it's accurate.
Explain that mechanism. How does a donut steal minerals from me? I thought it just added fat.
It's simple chemistry. To metabolize sugar, to turn it into energy, your body requires magnesium, B vitamins, and calcium as catalysts for the reaction. Sugar itself contains none of these. It is a naked calorie.
So it enters the body empty-handed.
Worse, it enters the body demanding payment. When you eat sugar, your body has to pull those nutrients, magnesium, calcium, from its own reserves.
Where does it pull them from?
It pulls them from your bones, from your tissues, just to process the sugar.
Wow, so it's not just empty calories, it's negative calories from a nutrient perspective.
Precisely. It's a net loss. Every time you eat a high-sugar meal, you are slightly depleting your mineral stockpile. If you are trying to build up a warehouse for a baby, sugar is coming in the back door and looting the place.
That is a vivid image. It really highlights the modern paradox the source talks about. We are calorie overload, nutrient deficient.
We are overfed and starving. A modern parent might be consuming 3,000 calories a day, plenty of energy, but their body is starving for zinc, for vitamin A, for K2. Their cells are screaming for materials while they drown in energy.
And this is why the source argues that modern prenatal vitamins taken during pregnancy are too little, too late.
Because you're trying to patch a hole in the dam while the water's already rushing through.
Right.
A synthetic pill cannot replicate the complex matrix of nutrients found in whole foods like roe and liver. And it certainly can't make up for a 6-month deficit in a matter of weeks. The building phase has already started. The foundation is already being poured.
This brings us to the final section of our deep dive, the ultimate inheritance. We talk a lot about leaving things for our kids. Money, a house, maybe a family business. We worry about their college fund.
All the time.
But the source argues that we need to redefine legacy.
It circles back to the branding of the source material. Longevity, 30 to 120. The argument is that the greatest inheritance a parent can give is not financial. It is biological.
A body that works.
It's a body that doesn't require constant maintenance.
A body that doesn't need braces.
Mm-hmm.
A body that doesn't get sick every time the wind changes.
Think about the quality of life difference. I mean, it's immense. If you give your child a robust immune system, a skeletal structure that supports them without pain, wide airways so they sleep deeply, and a neurological system that is wired for high intelligence, that is a dividend that pays out every single day for 120 years.
It's the 120-year vision. The investment made in those 6 months determines the trajectory for the entire century plus of that human being's life.
It's a profound responsibility. The source frames outcomes like perfect jaw structure, robust immunity, and high intelligence, not as luck, but as nutritional dividends.
Nutritional dividends.
You invest early, and the child reaps the compound interest forever.
I love that. It really takes the pressure off the idea of luck and puts the power back in our hands.
It does. It shifts us from being passive observers of our children's health to active designers. It transforms the anxiety we talked about at the beginning into action.
So let's summarize this formula, because we've covered a lot of ground, and I want to make sure people have the practical takeaway.
The core message is simple. Healthy babies are the result of conscious design, not chance.
Not a lottery.
Not a lottery. The formula is a 6-month prep window where you prioritize nutrient density above all else. You treat yourself like an Olympic athlete in training.
And you focus on the special foods, organ meats, fish eggs, animal fats.
You hunt down the activator X, the vitamin K2.
Okay.
And you aggressively avoid the thieves, the sugar and white flour. You stop letting them loot your warehouse.
And you realize that your dinner plate today is the blueprint for your future child's entire life.
That's the key. It's not just dinner, it's construction material. Every single bite is a brick in the foundation of someone who doesn't exist yet.
I want to leave our listeners with a final provocation, something to chew on. We've talked about Fiji, we've talked about the Inuit. These were cultures without microscopes, without labs, without prenatal vitamins in plastic bottles, yet they knew that nutrition determined genetic expression.
It raises a massive question for us. If they knew this, and we forgot it, what else have we forgotten?
Right.
We rely so heavily on modern medicine to fix things, to straighten teeth with metal wire, to treat allergies with shots, to manage chronic illness with pills. But what if we focused on building correctly in the first place?
It's the difference between being a mechanic who fixes a broken car and an engineer who builds a car that doesn't break.
Exactly. And the tools to be that engineer are in your grocery store. Well, maybe in the specialty aisle for the fish eggs, but they are there.
You might have to dig a little for the liver or make friends with a butcher.
But it's there, and it's the most important work you'll ever do.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's a heavy topic, but I think it's an incredibly hopeful one. Your anxiety about rolling the dice doesn't have to be the end of the story.
No, it doesn't.
You can stack the deck.
You absolutely can.
Until next time, keep learning and take care of your warehouse.
Take